Well, good morning. Happy Tuesday. It's Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. It was a hot one yesterday. It's going to be a hot one today and tomorrow, but then hopefully that'll push out this heat sink that's over Tucson, and we'll get some more rain, some more monsoon rains. And even if it doesn't rain, the temperature will be brought down a little bit, and you'll feel that pre-rain stuff going on. So hopefully we'll get the last 2 weeks of August to be really, really nice. We haven't really had, I think I've had, well, while I was in New Orleans a couple weeks ago, I think they had a couple good monsoon rains, and then we had one last week. So some summers, it just rains. It seems like it's raining every day, and some summers it seems like it's not. So I love the summer rains. I just love the summer rains. And one of the things I like to do when it's a summer rain is it really soaks the ground. I like to go and pull weeds. So I'm just waiting to pull weeds is basically what I'm doing. Sometimes you can't get out there, but sometimes you can. Let's see. Birthdays. We have no birthdays today. Let me look. Yeah, no birthdays today. So I'll close that out. And let's see, what else? I think that's about it. I'm trying to think of anything else. That's about it. So stay safe out there. Make sure you protect yourself when you're out in the weather, especially when it's really, really hot. Do what you can to make sure you stay safe. All right, let's get into our study rather quickly today. We are in Leviticus chapter 11, and these are the dietary laws that God is telling Moses and Aaron. And he doesn't necessarily say why. He just says these are the things you're going to do. And we can surmise by looking at it what the purpose of God's dietary laws are. One of the things that we know for sure is that in the Old Testament, these were there by God to protect the people. In the New Testament, Jesus has wiped out, I guess you could say, the Old Testament. If the purpose of the law, though, was to protect people at that time from food that could harm them, then the difference between the Old Testament and now is I think maybe they know a little bit more about, now we know about where disease comes from and what to do, what not to do, and those sort of things. So let's just continue on. We talked about the animals that they could eat, which were cloven hoofed and chewing cud. But then we started going down other lists of things that were, you can eat grasshoppers and cicadas, but you can't eat like flies. Like, who'd want to eat a fly anyway? But, sorry, just the thought about eating a fly. I've eaten flies. They've flown into my mouth. I think I in the last 20 years, I think it's maybe happened once, but I did have a fly. I was walking or running or something, and a fly flew into my mouth, and it was the most disgusting thing. You just the thought of something like that flying into your mouth is just disgusting. Oh, it gives me chills just thinking about it. Oh. Those are one of the things that, I can handle a lot of stuff, but I can't handle flies. I really can't handle flies. Ask Mrs. Hook. If there is a fly in the house, I am on a mission to kill that fly, and I cannot do anything else until that fly is gone. So if I am working on a sermon and I hear a fly, it's like sermon goes out the window. I got to deal with that fly. Man. Okay, so let's just see what other foods God says you can or cannot eat. And mostly these are things you can't eat, but let's just look. Oh, shoot, this is probably not going to pop up. Hold on just a second. Oh, it does. Okay, here we go. This is chapter 11, verse 29. Of the animals that move along the ground, these are unclean for you. The weasel, the rat, any kind of great lizard, the gecko, the monitor lizard, the wall lizard, the skink, and the chameleon. I'll just stop right there. We know what most of these are. You've probably heard of weasels, rats. I mean, There are some cultures that eat rats quite a bit. Lizards, geckos. We have geckos and lizards here. Monitor lizard, the wall lizard. I'm wondering if that's the lizard that just climbs on walls as opposed to the ones that are on the ground. The skink, what is a skink? I pulled it up. Here's what a skink is. Like, it's a orange-throated skink. It kind of looks like a lizard. Just a kind of a snake lizard combo, actually. It looks like a snake with legs on it. So if you saw this and you didn't see the legs, you'd think it was a snake, and that wouldn't be good. All right, verse 31. Of all those that move along the ground, these are unclean for you. Whoever touches them when they are dead will be unclean till evening. When one of them dies and falls on something, that article, whatever its use, will be unclean, whether it is made of wood, cloth, hide, or sackcloth. Put it in water, it will be unclean till evening, and then it will be clean. If one of them falls into a clay pot, everything in it will be unclean, and you must break the pot. Any food you are allowed to eat that has come into contact with water from any such pot is unclean, and any liquid that is drunk from such a pot is unclean. Anything that one of their carcasses falls on becomes unclean. An oven or cooking pot must be broken up. They are unclean, and you are to regard them as unclean. A spring, however, or a cistern for collecting water remains clean, but anyone who touches one of these carcasses is unclean. If a carcass falls on any seeds that are to be planted, they remain clean. But if water has been put on the seed and the carcass falls on it, it is unclean for you. So now as I'm reading this, I'm thinking to myself, these are reasonable health things to do. Just think about touching pork. And if you touch pork, and you know that pork potentially has, I don't know what the disease on pork is, but, basically if you touch pork, anything until you wash your hands and kind of sanitize them, anything you touch or anything that touches pork after that, you have to be really, really, really careful of, because when you eat raw pork, there's a higher potential that you might get a disease. And some of these diseases are really nasty. Now, the thing about snakes is that, people do handle snakes all the time. But snakes also can have, is it salmonella that's on snakes and maybe even on eggs? I know that if you go to the herpetology museums and they bring out a snake and they let you hold a snake, which some people will do. They'll hold a snake, especially harmless snakes. Then afterwards, they'll highly encourage you to wash your hands or to sanitize your hands to get rid of potential diseases that might be transferred from the snake to you. So whenever you go to one of these museums, they'll put the sanitizer on your hands. If you have a snake lady come out, or a lizard lady come out, they will put sanitizer on your hands. There's just something about these creepy crawly things, aside from the fact that most people don't like holding snakes, that also harbor diseases. And the pots, if a pot gets diseases on it, you have to destroy the pot. Now, what's interesting is that it says that if you get a cloth, if it falls on the cloth, you can take the cloth and put it in water, after the evening or by the next day, that cloth will be fine again. Now, isn't that interesting? But there's a couple things we know about water. But water is incredibly powerful. If you have water and you put something in water, there are things in water that break down all sorts of bad things. Water really is a healing thing. And a pot of water, believe it or not, if you have something that's a disease or whatever, I don't know about modern diseases, but a lot of them, if you put them in water, the water will start acting upon those things. Not not purified water. What do you call it? Distilled water? Distilled water won't necessarily do this, although it might. Actually, I think distilled water's I think distilled water is really, really powerful too. Water is a very, very powerful cleansing agent, believe it or not. um, and so if you've got water, if you stick something in water, the water will start breaking down the things and start cleaning it. It's just the way water does. We had a dishwasher go out, and so we had to get a new dishwasher. And it's just amazing. All a dishwasher really is it puts water at the tub of the dishwasher, and then it shoots the gel of the water on the dishes just over and over and over and over again, often in 2 or 3 cycles. And then by the end of the 3rd cycle, they do a rinse, and then it's clean. I mean, it's really nothing more than that. It's just squirting water on the dishes long enough and hard enough so that the dishes get clean. And it's just really, really quite a fascinating process. It's not much more complicated than that. What you do in your dish, what you do in your dishes in the sink is you scrub off all the dirt part and then it's clean. I mean, it's nothing more than that. The water itself is pretty clean. We put soaps and things in there, but you wouldn't necessarily have to. Just by getting all this stuff out of there and rinsing it with water and putting it out to dry will kill most diseases. Will kill all diseases, actually. All right. Before it falls in a clay pot. Yeah, seeds. Yeah, that's interesting. If it falls on a seed, it's not a problem. That's because the seed itself is fairly protected from the outside. But once you plant a seed, it's what comes out of the seed then, that's good. And it kind of bypasses all the bad stuff. Although, no, we won't get into that. I took a class in college on things like this, diseases, and where the diseases live and how to protect against it. It was a sanitation and sewage class. And my goal in life was to be a sanitation engineer. But I was convinced by some people that loved me that it's not a good party starter when people say, "What do you do?" And I say, I deal with people's waste, with their solid and liquid waste. It's like, oh, okay, thanks. I'm going to move on. So anyway, but it was fascinating, absolutely fascinating. I mean, it's fascinating. It was probably the most fascinating of all the fields of civil engineering. Is wastewater management, because it deals with diseases, and diseases are really, really incredible. All right, verse 39. If an animal that you are allowed to eat dies, anyone who touches its carcass will be unclean till evening. Anyone who eats some of the carcass must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. Anyone who picks up the carcass must wash their clothes, and they will be unclean till evening. And we know this is that once you have a carcass, diseases start to enter into the carcass. The hide of the animal kind of protects the diseases, and the outside of the skin of the meat protects the inside of the skin. But once you've eaten all the meat off and all that's left are little bits of meat, and your hands have been on it, or flies have been on it, or whatever, then the carcass starts to get really, really bad. So Moses receives this word from God that they're not supposed to touch a carcass, which is very true. Don't touch a carcass. If you see a carcass out in the desert, don't pick it up and eat it. Let vultures do that, but it's not for you. Vultures have different systems to deal with diseases. They've got a whole different biology. Verse 41, every creature that moves along the ground is to be regarded as unclean. It is not to be eaten. You are not to eat any creature that moves along the ground, whether it moves on its belly or walks on all fours or on many feet, it is unclean. Do not defile yourself by any of these creatures. Do not make yourself unclean by means of them or be made unclean by them. I am the Lord your God. Consecrate yourself and be holy, because I am holy. Do not make yourselves unclean by any creature that moves along the ground. I am the Lord who brought you up out of Egypt to be your God. Therefore, be holy because I am holy. So God tells them all this stuff, but then he reinforces it. He says, the reason why I want you to not touch this stuff is because you are set apart. That's what holiness means. Kadosh, the Hebrew word for holy, means to be set apart. I set you apart. I called you out of Egypt. You are my people. I have set you apart. Like you said to Abraham, I will be a blessing to you so that you may be, I will give you blessings so that you may be a blessing to other people. You are set apart. You are mine. And if you want to remain mine, if you want to be my people, then these are the things I want you to do. Now, why? Because you are of no, when we are sick, it is harder for us to serve God than when we are healthy. It's harder to be a blessing to other people if you are sick. So God wants you to be healthy, and so be a blessing by trying to maintain your health. Now, I watched an interview recently of a guy who grew up and went into the Congo when he was 18 years old. This would have been, I think he was born in 74, so he went to the Congo in the mid-90s. Not a good place to go in the mid-90s. And the Congo is just filled with the forest. And what he noticed was that there were people there that just wouldn't get sick. You know, they would, Europeans would go there and they would get very, very sick. But if you lived in the Congo, you wouldn't get sick. They were very, very healthy people. And these were pygmies and other people that lived in the Congo. It's just amazing how diseases work and how if you grow up in an area, that area won't kill you. But if you go to that area, it can just destroy you. So just fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So he went to the Congo. He was looking for a brontosaurus. He saw a National Geographic article about how there were dinosaurs living in the Amazon. So he decided to go to the Amazon to see if he could find these dinosaurs. And so he gets there, and the pygmies say, yeah, there's dinosaurs, and we'll show you where they are. But the journey to get to the dinosaurs took him through leech-infested waters. And he said once he got to the leech-infested waters, he says, I can't go any further. So I guess he never made it to the dinosaurs. He went back 10 years later to try to find them. Never got any pictures. Went with a film crew. There are places in the jungle that are so dangerous that even the pygmies won't go and the natives won't go. And maybe that's where dinosaurs live. Who knows? Who knows if dinosaurs live there? Now today, you could probably take a drone and just fly over at low speeds and heights and see if you find dinosaurs. I don't know. I wonder if there are people that are looking at Google Earth and trying to find out if there's any animals that we haven't spotted yet. But how do you believe it, right? I've seen pictures of huge 100-foot long, 1,000-foot long snakes in the Amazon. And you think, is this real or is this photoshopped? And it's hard to tell anymore. I don't know how I got off on that. All right. We'll finish this off with verse 46. These are the regulations concerning animals, birds, every living thing that moves about in the water, and every creature that moves on the ground. You must distinguish between the unclean and the clean, between living creatures that may be eaten and those that may not be eaten. So God gives Moses and Aaron, oh man, I keep pressing, I got to fix that. God gives Moses and Aaron the regulations of what they're supposed to eat, what they're not supposed to eat. This is supposed to keep them healthy. And so the Israelites say, we will not eat these things. And that is good. That is very, very good. Now, can you eat these things today? Well, two things about that. One is we have a lot more safer health regulations on what we can eat, on what we can't eat, and what food preparation is. We know a whole lot more about disease now than back then. So from a disease standpoint, we kind of really understand it. But the other thing is that God, when Jesus came, he fulfilled the Old Testament law. And this is, God told us these rules because he wanted us to remain healthy. As a matter of fact, all the Old Testament laws are there for us. The 10 Commandments, we think the reason why we should follow the 10 Commandments is because it pleases God. And if we violate the 10 Commandments, God gets very, very angry at us. I'm not denying that. But the 10 Commandments were made for us to live our lives better. Having no other gods before me, yes, God is a jealous God, but also if you stake your life on something else other than God, it becomes a false God. Tim Keller wrote a great book called Counterfeit Gods, talking about how even a good thing, when taken to its extreme, can be a bad thing. Like loving your children is a good thing, but if you make the children the center of your life, where everything revolves around your children, that can actually turn into a bad thing because you've made them God as opposed to making God God. And that's just one of the examples that he gives, but there's several different examples that he gives about making sure that the main thing is the main thing, and the main thing is God. And by making something else that's a good thing in a higher position than God, it's a counterfeit God, and ultimately leads to our own destruction. And so that's just thou shalt have no other gods. But if you want to live in a society, don't steal, don't murder. I mean, the whole idea about the 10 Commandments is more for us on how to live our lives so that our lives are better. It's a guardrail to protect us from falling off a cliff. But over time, what happens is that we forget that, and we think that the only reason to follow the 10 Commandments is because it makes God happy. It's deeper than that. And the same thing is true with these dietary laws. The reason why God gave us these dietary laws was because he wanted to protect us from these things. But over time, we forget that. We think that the only reason to do this is to because it makes God happy, or it doesn't make God happy when we don't follow these laws. And that's true also. But God really does give us these laws to make our lives better, and we forget that. We forget that. The same thing is true with all of God's law. The law isn't in and of itself just to make God happy. The law is there because when we follow the law, we are going to live a better life, basically, a healthier life, a safer life, a life that puts us in a position to where we can be sanctified. But that's a big fancy word. We can do the things that God wants us to do, the reason why he's called us into existence in the first place. And if you don't follow God's law, it's very, very challenging for him then to use you for the things that he wants you to do. All right, so let's leave it there. It's probably close enough to closing. It's not worth getting into chapter 12. So let's close in prayer. Gracious God, thank you for this day. Keep us safe in the heat. And until we meet again, keep us in your grace. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Thank you, all of you joining me online. I appreciate it. I pray God's richest blessings on your day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.